It's been a rough few days for the Duffer Brothers and Netflix. They are facing major backlash over decisions they've made in Stranger Things Season 5, Part 2. And as we're going into the finale, people's expectations are extremely high, and I think even more people are going to be disappointed. But now, apparently, if you criticize the Will coming out scene, you are a bigot, and the thousands of people leaving reviews are terrible individuals, according to users on the internet. I have a few different things to show off, but before I get into the topic, if you enjoy the content I create, check out the links in the description, join the community in my live streams, and consider supporting through Patreon or YouTube memberships. Now, whenever you criticize a gay character, whenever you criticize a storyline that happens to have someone that's part of the LGBT or somebody who, is questioning themselves, right? You're called an ist, you're called a phobe, and now apparently you are homophobic if you criticize this episode. Now, I personally think that this scene is bad because the acting is really poor. It is way too drawn out, and ultimately, why do I care about your sexuality when the world is going to end in a couple of hours? It's just not, in my opinion, the right time for the scene. It was really awkward, and yes, it did seem like it was shoved in there just for the sake of diversity. But we are talking now about people on the internet calling you an isterophobe for criticizing this bad acting. Now, I think that this entire season has been a mess so far. I think that the pacing is really weird. I think that the characters act like they've been lobotomized. Like, why is Robin making all of these weird sexual jokes? She never has really anything to add to a conversation except for discussing her sexuality with Will. You have people breaking up, but then they're almost not breaking up. It was really weird, that Jonathan and Nancy scene. Most of the main characters, like Lucas, Dustin, Max, Mike, they all act really strange. They aren't a focus anymore, and I just think that this is as bad as the Game of Thrones situation content-wise. Now, the Game of Thrones ending hurt more for me personally because the source material was so amazing. But hey, I guess this is why you do not idolize creators. This is why you do not become a big fan of certain properties, and you always have to be cautiously optimistic about new products. But yes, we know that Stranger Things Season 5 is getting raked across the coals right now. Headed on over to Rotten Tomatoes, it's currently sitting at an 84 critic and a 56% user with over 5,000 ratings already. When part 1 had gone up, it was sitting at a solid 79%. Still, what I would imagine is a disappointment for the Duffer Brothers. They most likely wanted a 90 or a 95, but now it is all the way down to a 56%, and it has been falling pretty steadily. Though, yes, apparently, if you criticize these poor acting skills and some of these questionable coming out scenes that they've added, you are homophobic. See what I mean? People are just bitching for the sake of bitching because there's nothing wrong with this scene at all. Y'all only say this because you dislike Noah. I would like to see any of you try to do this. Come back when you have an actual, valid, interesting take/criticism. Till then, shut the F up. Now, these are the scenes where he is helping Max and Holly escape from Vecna, but in my opinion, it's still really poor acting skills. I think that his acting throughout this entire season has been off the charts bad, and that doesn't also have to do with sexuality. I genuinely feel unwell over all the homophobia that we're witnessing and experiencing right now. It's not homophobic to criticize an actor's ability. It is not homophobic to say a scene is extremely cringeworthy and bad if you genuinely believe that. It is not homophobic to sit here and say that the writing is bad and this scene was directed poorly and it just wasn't good. That is good, genuine criticism. Criticism and harassment are not the same thing. Criticism and homophobia are not the same thing. This post is from a Byler's fan account. They said, yes, Stuffer, set your queer audience up for even more homophobia in this effing hellhole of a fandom. Now, what I think is most interesting about this logic is that it doesn't make sense, because if season 5 is being destroyed and wrecked over homophobia, why wasn't season 3? That's right, because this isn't why people dislike season 5. Yes, it is part of it, because it's just such a random, bizarre scene right before we get into the finale. When you have so many plot holes and so many storylines going on, I'm sorry, your sexuality is just at the bottom of the interesting list. But season 3 is an 86% on Metacritic. People liked season 3. Season 3 wasn't destroyed over this, and it would be because of Robin's big coming out scene, which, by the way, Robin's coming out scene was done really well. It was emotional, it was intense, it was impactful. Like, that was a perfectly fine scene, but Wills is sitting in a room filled with 20 people crying about his problems. It's just, in my opinion, not a good scene, period. They spent 5 seasons, roughly 50 hours of Stranger Things, to climax that Will is a homosexual, never watching Netflix again. I don't like girls, which, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of disappointment surrounding this, and there is also a lot of really good, genuine criticism like this. No hate to Holly, but I can't help but imagine how much more compelling season 5 would have been, and more justice to Mike, if each of Holly's scenes / her arc was substituted with Mike. Emotional Mad Wheeler escape, Vecna / Henry angst, Mike in the abyss, falling from the sky, and Nancy seeing that. Yeah, I totally and completely agree with this. There were much better directions they could have gone in, and I know Vecna wanted the children as his vessels. It would have been way cooler if he took, I don't know, all of their parents, maybe some of the main cast, or even if they had to substitute one of the children for a character like Mike. It just would have made so much more sense, but that's not what they did. Mike used to be a main character, now he's sidelined. I mean, even 11 is sidelined for Will now, and you just hate to see it, because so many of these characters started off really good and really strong, and I do not see a way that season 5 can be redeemed. I genuinely do not think one single episode, even if it is movie length, can make the situation better. Season 1, Dungeons and Dragons. Season 5, Go Go Gay Beam. Yeah, I can't help but laugh at it. I'm newer to Stranger Things, but I think I've realized the recipe. Everyone, oh no, we have a problem, we're doomed. But what if? Overly complex explanation. WTF are you saying? It's like this. Use a stupid prop to explain a dumb concept that could have been easily understood. Oh, that makes sense, but it would never work because insert argument and maybe another prop. All characters fight and argue. Guys, what if? Slightly move one of the props. Everyone, oh shit, that might work. Lather, rinse, repeat. And yeah, it has been like this, but they really overutilize these types of scenes in season 5. It's genuinely a reminder of what happened with Game of Thrones. It's like they wanted to rush to get this show done. And yes, part of that is the fact that they have really squandered these actors who were younger, because they grow up very quickly. And if they had hit all of these scenes and seasons back to back to back, it would have felt much more, in my opinion, cohesive. But I think that all of the problems with season 5 stem from the 18-month time skip. They should have just started right after the last episode of season 4, because it felt like all of this build up just to be told, yeah, guys, by the way, we have this massive time skip. I absolutely hated that. Even if the characters look slightly older, even if the characters look slightly different, I think we all can understand that and why that happened. But to continue that story from the end of season 4 would have made much more sense. So yeah, unfortunately for these actors, this show's being rated across the coals. I think most of their acting performances are really poor, at least in my opinion. Millie Bobby Brown only gives one face, and that's the duck face, because she's had too much filler. And Mike's turned into just a plank. You have Lucas, who I think his storyline with Max is really good, but Besides that, we only know that he really likes basketball. And then you have Dustin, who is going through this inner turmoil. By the way, I don't think that it is Steve that's going to die in the upside down / the final battle. I think it's going to be Mr. Clark, and that's why he's so upset. But regardless, we're talking about a lot of problems, but if you criticize this show at all whatsoever, apparently you are homophobic according to users on the internet. But that's all that I really had to discuss in this video. Let everyone know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this and found it important and informative, make sure to give it a like, share it, and subscribe to the channel. And if you didn't, give it a dislike. I appreciate your support either way, but I'll talk to you all again in the next video really soon.